Part 114. Heaven-Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1141. Wu Yu appeared in the city of all nations last time to welcome the envoys from all nations. Ran. When novel? R. A. N. E. N. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. If he appears outside this time, he will definitely cause a sensation. After becoming the Yanhuang Emperor, it was indeed inconvenient for him to show his face casually. He left the Emperor's mansion. With his current strength, he was the best in the entire Jambu world. Few people could find him while traveling in this divine city. After leaving the imperial city, I found that the outside was even busier than the imperial city. Every household and major immortal shops were decorated with lights and colorful decorations. The Yanhuang tribe, men, women, old and young, gathered together. Everyone was smiling, and they were discussing passionately. Someone was bragging and said, "To be honest, I really guessed it right a long time ago. When Emperor Yu first came to the capital of God, I knew very well that such a gifted person is better than all the emperor's sons and daughters. How could it be possible for an ordinary person from the desolate land of Dongsheng divine continent to be many times higher? So, I said at that time that Emperor Yu must be the biological son of the ancient emperor. Come on, stop bragging, haha, but now that we have Emperor Yu, our Yanhuang tribe will definitely be able to thrive for tens of thousands of years. Even if the ancient emperor goes to heaven, with Emperor Yu here, our Yanhuang tribe will definitely be the world's leader. The overlord. We are so lucky to be born into the Yanhuang tribe. At least, countless people of the Yanhuang tribe are probably excited now. If Wu Yu is not the biological son of the ancient emperor, they may still have some grudges. After all, many people used to dislike Wu Yu, but it is different now. The ancient emperor said it himself, the truth is revealed. Who dares to have an opinion against Wu Yu? If they were to meet Wu Yu now, they would all kneel on the ground. Wu Yu passed through the streets of Chengdu and appeared in the city of 10,000 kingdoms. Luo Bin and the others arrived later. The regent personally arranged the best palace for them, and there were many dedicated people to serve them. However, the Shenlong clan likes to be quiet. After they moved in, then the Kanglong Hall was emptied. In the blink of an eye, Wu Yu arrived at the gate of Kanglong Palace. The dragons from the dragon clan are all inside. It has been more than an hour since they returned here. The argument between them should have ended. They seemed to know that Wu Yu was coming back. When Wu Yu arrived, before he could speak, the palace gate had already opened, and Luo Bin was standing at the door. Under the sun, her long silver white hair was like crystals and pearls, and her eyes were like tranquility. The sea is like a sapphire. The most attractive thing is the red lips. Although they are closed, the corners of the mouth are slightly raised, forming a wonderful outline. Under the sunlight, the aqua blue dress danced in the wind, showing off her moving and exquisite curves. Everything about her was so perfect, even when Wu Yu was in a very confused mood, her smile and eyes could be seen. The chaos in his heart would also cool down. To be honest, if he hadn't been in that kind of relationship yet, Wu Yu would really want to be held in her arms and enjoy the tenderness that makes people forget all the troubles in the world. Come in, Luo Bin called softly and waved slightly. Wu Yu woke up from his daze and hurriedly went up. He had been a little out of control just now and was a little embarrassed. It's been a long time since I've been so close to her and smelled the fragrance of dragon and sea on her body. After Luo Bin turned around, Wu Yu followed closely behind her. After experiencing the initial throbbing, he was able to calm down enough from the tension of facing her. Minglong also criticized him, "What's going on? When you meet a woman, you are like a soft-legged shrimp, you have to harden up." Yes, Wu Yu couldn't help but feel ashamed, but it wasn't that he wasn't tough enough, but that he was now close to the fairy-like woman in his dream. He had missed her for too long, and coupled with the turmoil surrounding the ancient emperor's proposal, he was still a little nervous. Ah! Walking into the main hall, there was a very long corridor. Wu Yu was fascinated by her graceful limbs and felt that this section of the corridor was too short. "What's wrong?" Luo Bin asked when she saw that he was a little strange. "I want to stay with you like this forever, there is no end." He was brave enough, bit the bullet and looked at her with a more domineering look. However, her eyes were as gentle as water. Although Wu Yu was domineering, he fell into her gentleness. This had no attack power on her at all, but would make Wu Yu lose his mind again. "We haven't seen each other for several years, but you are so brave that you dare to tease me." When Luo Bin spoke, her smile and eyes seemed to penetrate his soul. When she said this, Wu Yu could only giggle. No matter how strong and domineering he is on weekdays, he will always act like a young man in front of her, and Luo Bin is the little sister. He is willing to listen to everything she says. Wu Yu really wanted to have no worries and live forever with her, but unfortunately it was not that easy in reality. As soon as he passed the corridor, he saw other people, most of them were old people, plus the relatively young god-refining demon dragon. These are the top immortal beasts. Among them, the weakest ones are almost stronger than Wu Yu. They are actually the strongest group of people in the Shenlong clan. However, they all have a deep hostility towards themselves. Red Bloodhorn Demon Dragon, Maple Leaf Sunda Dragon, Eight-Armed Golden Flame Dragon, Iron-Winged Forest Dragon, Raging Sea Kanglong, Purple Star Sky Dragon, Two-Tailed Ice Spirit Dragon, etc. Especially the god-refining demonic dragon's eyes already had quite strong murderous intent. If Luo Bin was not still here, their murderous intent would obviously be even more unconcealed. Their eyes at this time were actually a warning to Wu Yu. A pretty strong warning. Ming Long said with emotion, "The fairy beasts of the Shenlong clan do not want to mix with foreign races. After all, they want to strengthen the race that had a chance of becoming extinct in the era of the sky-devouring demon ancestor. Once they mix with foreign races, they will basically become extinct. What's more, it's a rare super dragon bloodline like the little female dragon. After all, as the dragon lord of the four seas, if she can't lead by example, she can't control the other dragons below, so these people will definitely not be willing to let it go. This little female dragon comes together with you. This is still based on your willingness to join the Shenlong clan and become one of them. But now that you have become Emperor Yu, they will definitely disagree even more, and will even desperately oppose their Four Seas Dragon Lord. How could she become the queen of your Yanhuang tribe and a member of your Yanhuang tribe? So, before you came, they must have had the most intense quarrel, but now, she can still treat you with a smile, as if everything is okay. It's like nothing happened, which is enough to show that she is really good to you. Cherish it." Speaking of the latter part, Ming Long was still a little sad, obviously touched. She was usually not a serious person, but she rarely spoke up for others, but now she was asking Wu Yu to cherish Luo Bin. Wu Yu actually didn't expect what she said. He was a little careless. Judging from the expressions and excited hearts of the old dragons, they must have had a quarrel, but Luo Bin could still act like a normal person. This really made Wu Yu was moved, but he didn't know how much opposition she faced when she came here to see him and ensure her safety. Hey, what a miscalculation. I originally thought that when I recovered my body, the Overlord would take the bow and make you mine. But before that time came, a little female dragon like this suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and she was still like this. She is charming, maybe I will fall in love with her, such a good girl. It is not unfair for me to fail in the competition. Ming Tong sighed again. Okay, stop talking nonsense at this time. She was still in the mood to make such a boring joke. Wu Yu and Luo Bin, under the attention of those dragons, walked through the long corridor and walked deeper. They and Luo Bin did not say a word, but their eyes did not flinch at all. Still quite strong against Wu Yu. The God-refining demonic dragon might have wanted to come forward, but was held back by a few old men. "Did you quarrel with them?" Wu Yu asked after passing by. After listening to what Ming Long said, he could probably imagine that Luo Ben was facing a lot of pressure to be able to be with him. "It's not the first time, it's okay." Luo Ben spoke softly, as if nothing happened. Deep in the palace, there is a garden. In a pavilion, Luo Ben is sitting opposite Wu Yu, her blue eyes falling on Wu Yu. "What exactly happened? Have you figured it out?" She was still concerned about the ancient emperor's affairs. There was a bit of a blur between Wu Yu and her, but Wu Yu could feel that she was very kind to him, and there was no doubt that he liked Luo Ben. This feeling was completely different from when he was with Nangong Wei. He took a deep breath and said, "I am also surprised by this matter. He said that he is the person who made me everything I am now, and he is my father. Now I deduce that there is a 30% possibility, and the other 70%, very dangerous, quite dangerous. 30% and 70%, I roughly understand, it is still more dangerous. He is an immortal, and the world is all under his control. We, the Shenlong clan, are powerless to resist him. Of course, he has never done anything detrimental to the Shenlong clan. The world of Yanfu is stable and safe because of him. Have you made any preparations?" Wu Yu would not hide anything from her. He quickly told her his current preparations and his difficulties. After hearing this, Luo Ben frowned slightly and said, "If this is the case, he naturally knows that your sister and your master are limiting you. Can I help you and take them to the Four Seas Dragon Palace first? In our Four Seas Dragon Palace, he is the only place you can't go to is the Four Seas Dragon Palace." Wu Yu shook his head and said, "No, I can't implicate you. Moreover, if that is the case, he has already been prepared. He will never let you succeed, and will even put you in danger." Luo Ben looked worried and said, "Then what can I do?" Wu Yu looked at her firmly and said, "I want you to return to the Four Seas Dragon Palace as soon as possible and never come out again. I'm afraid that he will threaten me with my sister and master, but I'm also worried that he will threaten me with you." Luo Ben looked at him with bright eyes. Wu Yu gritted his teeth, mustered up his courage, suddenly took her hand, put it in his hand, his voice was trembling, and said, "It has been a long time, no matter what dangers I face now, I am no longer the same person I once was in front of you. I am a weak mortal. Although I am still not as good as you, I still want you to know that I want." It was a simple sentence, but it was really difficult to say it. Wu Yu felt that his courage was unparalleled, but he was still a little trembling now. "But I have never regarded you as a weak mortal. No matter before or now, you are the man who is willing to give everything for me." Luo Ben held his hand instead and said something that Wu Yu would never forget. /U003 sem /U003e /U003 section class equals read /U003e /U003c section /U003e. Announcement: the last 4 days of the monthly subscription for the entire site, no more misses. Android version download, read offline without GG. Book list similar recommendations to In the Name of the People. iPhone version new client download. /U003c/m /U003e. If q.storage, read type, equal to /U002.6 /U002.6, VIP chapter /U003c0. /U003c SCR plus IPT SRC equals add/v, 8 equals h5-01 /U003e /U003c/SCR plus IPT /U003e /U003c /U003e. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1142. Her eyes and demeanor at this moment all showed that she was serious about every word she said. Wu Yu did not let go of her slender hand, but held it tighter. He was rarely moved, but now his heart was filled with a kind of warmth. In fact, Wu Yu knew that from the beginning, she was far from someone he could touch. The meeting in Yanhuang Emperor City was just an accident. As expected, they should have gone their separate ways and returned to their own worlds. But I didn't expect that she would think so highly of me. At the beginning, Wu Yu's strength and realm were really a million miles away from hers, but she seemed to think that one day, Wu Yu would be able to keep pace with her. Fortunately, Wu Yu did not disappoint her. It took him less than 10 years to be almost on par with her. And she still withstood the pressure from the Shenlong clan, treated herself with gentleness and consideration, and was even more proactive than herself. This moment was unforgettable for Wu Yu. If you can have such a partner in life, what else can you ask for? Maybe he was not so sure before, but at this moment, he really made a decision that he would never regret in his life. The beautiful woman in front of him, Lupin, is not only beautiful, but also has many marks about her in Wu Yu's heart, making her the most important person. As she said, he is willing to give everything for her. Although he is now facing a crossroads in life or death depends on the ancient Emperor Yanhuang. But with her by his side, Wu Yu has infinite confidence and fighting spirit. His belief is constantly strengthening. At this moment, he can't say anything, but Lupin's slender hands are wrapped in his palms, and he doesn't want to let go for a moment. He is so serious, but a little silly, which is unprecedented. He has always been a very sharp person in words, eloquent, not like now, he can only look at her stupidly, not knowing what to say. This silly look made Lupin chuckle and said, "I didn't expect it to be 10 years. I thought I might have to wait for you for 20 or 50 years. You helped me save my life, so I was willing to wait for you, but I never expected that you didn't even use 10 years. I even saw your final progress. Maybe this is the will of heaven." There was not so much love in her words, only one word, which was wait. But this was what moved Wu Yu the most. She was so beautiful, so Wu Yu needed time to really be worthy of her. Otherwise, the two of them were in an unequal situation, which would not benefit Wu Yu at all, and he would only have huge pressure. But Lupin didn't give him any pressure at all. I can't wait any longer. 10 years seems too long. I want to see you." Wu Yu's face flushed. He was usually very aggressive, but now he was trembling when he spoke to her. However, his eyes were sincere from beginning to end, and he was even reluctant to blink. He was even more reluctant to let go of his hands. Being close to her now, Wu Yu temporarily put aside the distress from the ancient emperor. Seeing him so cute, Luo Bin had an intoxicating smile on her face. She leaned close to Wu Yu's ear, exhaled like orchid, and said, "Wu Yu, are you confessing to me?" She looked charming at this time, and the seductive body fragrance surrounded his heart, making Wu Yu, a young man full of blood, unable to control his murderous aura. For such a question, Wu Yu could only breathe heavily and his head became hot. He didn't want to answer now, he just wanted to throw Luo Bin to the grass under the pavilion. Seeing his expression, Lupin also found it funny. She blinked her bright eyes slightly and said, "Come on, I won't tease you anymore. Actually, I guessed that you might have inherited the Immortals. Now you are holding my hand tightly. Can you tell me the details?" She mentioned the hand. Wu Yu was still holding it, and he had no intention of letting it go. Her hand was so beautiful, and it would probably be beautiful even if it turned into a dragon claw. Her words finally made Wu Yu find something to say. In fact, Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi knew his secret, so he had wanted to tell Lupin a long time ago, but there was no such face-to-face opportunity. Now that the opportunity came, he wanted her to know him better. So, He told her about how he got the inheritance of the great sage equaling heaven, how he rose all the way, how he had the fusion tower that changed time and had puppets in the ancient immortal road, how he got the gate of the ancient demon world in the Tianyao Emperor's mansion, and how he hatched the egg he got from the Tianyan demon mansion and had the Tianyan body. Luo Bin listened for half an hour, listening carefully. So your clone came from that egg, no wonder it looks familiar. You must control the body of the devouring heaven, and don't follow the old path of the devouring heaven demon ancestor. In addition, did your golden hoop really exterminate the devouring heaven demon ancestor? She knew about the Monkey King, the floating life tower, and the gate to the ancient demon world, but what concerned her most was the relationship with the devouring heaven demon ancestor. Not really, but there has been no movement for a long time, so it should be considered sealed in it, Wu Yu said. Then this is also a hidden danger, you have to take precautions. Don't let the devouring heaven demon ancestor regenerate, Luo Bin said with concern. Yes, I know. Wu Yu certainly remembered her reminder. The great sage equaling heaven, fighting and defeating the Buddha, I don't know why this immortal, so powerful in heaven, left a legacy. Moreover, what the ancient emperor meant was that he sent this legacy to you. It is, Luo Bin asked. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Wu Yu nodded, this is also related to the problem they are facing now, and it is also their biggest problem. In addition, does the ancient emperor know about the gate to the ancient demon world? This is indeed a way out. From the ancient books of my Shenlong clan, there are indeed records of rumors about other worlds. I thought they were legends and conjectures, but I didn't expect them to be true. I don't know if he knows this, but I have already sent the body of devouring heaven and my two good friends over there. In fact, if, my sister, master, and you, it's good if we can all go to a safe place. Now I'm still under the ancient emperor's restrictions. Luo Bin nodded and said, it's really terrible to go against a god. Now I'm afraid I can only pray that the ancient emperor is really your father. If not, he must be waiting for an opportunity to harm you, and we don't know anything about him. If he really regards your relatives as a threat to you, he will definitely not let you take this away easily. Maybe, in the next time, you need to make a quick judgment to determine whether he is your father. Wu Yu also knew this. He thought about it and said, I wonder if he will come to me on the eve of his enthronement. Before, many things could not be explained clearly in public. Then will he be harmful to you tonight? Luo Bin asked slightly worriedly. Wu Yu was not sure, but he was afraid that Luo Bin would be worried, so he still said, probably not, after all, it has been done long ago. Even if it is possible, there is not enough time for the time being, or what conditions he needs, etc. I have to have one-on-one contact with him to test these things. The shadow of the ancient emperor Yanhuang was like a vast darkness, surrounding them, making them feel the threat from the gods in the midst of this emotional blending. Wu Yu, do you know what I hope the future will be like? After a moment of silence, Luo Bin looked at him with bright eyes. I listened to you. Wu Yu put aside the matter about the ancient emperor and listened carefully. Luo Bin had an imaginative look and said, after the last disaster, I had the original dragon scales and underwent a great transformation. Now I am actually very confident that I will become an immortal, go to the heavenly palace of heaven, and become a real immortal beast. Maybe it won't take 5 years, maybe within 1 or 2 years, I can succeed. Speaking of this, she looked at Wu Yu affectionately and said, I hope that I can meet you in heaven. When the time comes, I think that will be the best fate. After hearing this, Wu Yu was shocked. First of all, he was extremely happy for Luo Bin. She had finally come back to life and now had the absolute possibility of becoming an immortal. Then, he saw the best future for the two of them, which was to become a true couple in heaven and stay together forever. She allowed Wu Yu to see the future. I will appear there. For sure. You don't have to worry about me. If you have the chance to go to heaven, you must be decisive. Wu Yu's hand held her palm with a little force, and her palm turned a little red, but Luo Bin did not let go. She looked at Wu Yu with soft eyes and said, "Fool, of course I believe you. I also believe that we can all get through this difficulty, and we will definitely meet in heaven. You must be careful on the road ahead, and I am willing to do my best to get through this difficulty with you. No, you go to become an immortal wholeheartedly. If the ancient emperor really wants to harm me, you can't do anything about it. If you are willing to listen to me, it is best to return to the Sihai Dragon Palace immediately. Never come out again, and I will definitely go to the heaven. Looking for you is my promise. I have never made a promise in my life." Wu Yu was a little strong and a little excited. His head was hot and his eyes were bloodshot. He knew that Luo Bin was worried about him, but he would never let her take risks with him, and that she would give up her promising future. What else did Luo Bin want to say at this moment? Wu Yu didn't know where he got the courage to reach out. His arms, which were considered very majestic, took that delicate body into his arms and held her very hard. "You must listen to me. You must return to the Four Seas Dragon Palace immediately and concentrate on becoming an immortal. I will not let you down. If you are disobedient, I will never agree." At this moment, Wu Yu seemed to truly understand what love was. At least he knew that he couldn't let her take risks for him at the critical moment, and he definitely couldn't let himself hold her back, let alone let the woman he liked sacrifice her future and life for him. That was absolutely, unacceptable to him. \U003C -OUOOU-\U003E. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1143. In the past, he might have only had admiration for Luo Bin. But at this moment, that feeling of love was deeply felt in my heart. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. He felt that for a woman who treated him like this, he could really even lose his mind and fight the whole world for her. He was so hard that it was hard for Luo Bin to breathe. This was an embrace full of blood and power. It was very fierce and impactful. She had never experienced such a feeling, so for a while, she was immersed in it. She was willing to smile slightly, then leaned on Wu Yu's chest, her face turned slightly red, and she said softly, "I wasn't quite shy just now. Why are you so brave now? I didn't allow you to hug me. No matter, I won't let you go anyway." Did you hear what I just said? Wu Yu felt that he had to be more domineering, otherwise she might be disobedient. Luo Bin pursed her lips and said, "I heard it. This is your attitude towards love. It really moved me. But I also have my own attitude. You have to understand that a true Taoist couple is mutually, if you are willing to sacrifice for me, then I am also willing to fight for you, even if it costs a lot or I lose, I am willing." This made Wu Yu feel a bit dizzy. Luo Bin was not the kind of woman he could protect under his power. She had her own thoughts and her own way. All her decisions were part of her way. If Wu Yu stopped her so much, he would be disrespecting her way. Therefore, even if he really wanted to convince her, but on second thought, if he didn't respect her, he would be even less worthy of her. Therefore, after much deliberation, he could only say, in this case, I can only try my best not to put myself in danger until you become an immortal. It sounds easy to say, but Wu Yu knows that it is not easy, so he desires to become a stronger person. Only in that way will he not implicate her and destroy her great future. He used to think that Taoist lovers are very simple. It was two people together, but now faced with these complicated situations, he realized that sometimes love might be much more complicated than he imagined. He felt that Luo Bin thought much more clearly than he did about Taoist companions and the future. However, Wu Yu still hugged her. He wouldn't let her go unless she refused. The feeling of holding a beautiful woman in your arms like this is indeed the most beautiful enjoyment in the world, especially when she is the one you desire. With such skin-to-skin contact, you can feel the temperature of her body, her heartbeat, and her fragrance. At this moment, I can only say that I can't wait to hold her again. She melted into her own body. Your embrace is quite warm. Please be quiet for a while and stop talking about those annoying things. Luo Bin pressed her head against his chest, looking up at Wu Yu with eyes full of appreciation and love, which made her Wu Yu understood better that he might not be as good as her in this aspect. He suddenly understood something very deeply. Even if I hold her now and be so close to her, there is still a long way to go before we can truly be together and become Taoist couples. Even if we are separated by heaven and earth, especially me, will I be able to survive? That's not necessarily the case. Then, for the promise of going to heaven to reunite with her, I must live on. There was a blazing fire in his eyes. In the past, his belief would not be as strong as this, but now, he was really as if he had been given blood, and he was filled with an extremely strong desire for the word alive. He has made a promise today. His previous promises were a bit casual, not to the extent he is today. Luo Bin said that now she wanted to enjoy the quietness and the warmth of his arms. At this time, she should put those worries behind her and only love could be mixed. Wu Yu finally confirmed that they were in love and Luo Bin was willing to be with him. However, the joy between two people is the joy between two people. When they are really close to each other, he sees the difficulties ahead, especially the ancient emperor who is blocking him in front of him. Every time he thought about life and death, there was fire in his chest. Be good, you are a lucky person, no one can block your way. You need to calm down. Luo Bin was in his arms, stretched out her hand, hooked his neck, put her other hand on his chest, caressing him gently, and with her words almost touching his ears, Wu Yu truly understood, what is the tenderness that can melt a man. He was very manic, but he really calmed down at this time. He had always heard about Wenro Township before, but now for the first time he knew what it was about. I understand. Control the mania, but don't suppress the belief. Wu Yu knew very well that mania and belief were not the same thing. The garden was full of flowers, the fragrance of flowers was everywhere, and the setting sun dyed the sky a brilliant orange, shining on them and creating a halo everywhere. Under this halo, the beauty in his arms was even more attractive. Looking at the snow-white skin and feeling the wonderful and exquisite body, Wu Yu actually still had some desire for that kind of skin-to-skin contact, but as soon as the thought came up, Luo Bin could feel it from the changes in his body. Her eyes instantly became strong and she said, "Don't move around, don't think about it, or I won't let you hug him." She was still very majestic. Faced with her gaze that penetrated Wu Yu's inner thoughts, Wu Yu could only smile. As expected, in front of her, he stopped thinking about deeper contact for the time being. This was the first time he had such a vision. In intimate contact, she would definitely not allow herself to go any further. However, he still felt very happy. It must have been my good fortune in hundreds of lifetimes, thousands of lifetimes, and billions of lifetimes that I was able to get such a beauty like you in my life, Wu Yu said firmly. You are not stupid, but you can also please girls. Let me ask you, isn't that Princess Huang 11 the little girl from Dongsheng Shenzhou? How did she get such a good fortune and directly turn into a fairy beast? She looked at Wu Yu with a half smile, as if she could see through Wu Yu's heart. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. I don't know. It should be related to the Phoenix Lord. However, she has lost her past memory now, Wu Yu said. He remembered that he still had some entanglements with her in the ancient Soul Tower, but luckily he was in time. Stopped. Luo Bin said, I don't believe she has lost her memory. The way she looked at you before was wrong. I'm afraid the old love has rekindled. I can tell you, now you hold my hand, hug me and give it back to me. Don't make a promise half-heartedly, otherwise, I will give you a good look. She stared into Wu Yu's eyes, and his eyes changed from gentle to tough in an instant. That's right, I definitely don't dare to be honest, Wu Yu really didn't dare. Luo Bai is not someone you can fool easily. It would be quite scary if you really pissed her off. She was satisfied, and hooked her hands around Wu Yu's neck. Her eyes were still very intimidating. Although she was smiling, everything she said was still full of intimidation. She said, from now on, you are mine, no other woman can touch you. Unexpectedly, she was so strong. Wu Yu couldn't help but feel ashamed and said quickly, don't worry, I will never let others touch her. That's right, I believe you. She became strong quickly, but she could also become as gentle as water in an instant. For example, at this time, she was so soft, which made Wu Yu feel lingering and reluctant to leave for a moment. He felt that he had to change the topic quickly, otherwise he would be under great pressure if he kept talking about Nangong Wei. Suddenly I remembered that I still didn't know what kind of dragon she was. He asked. After all, there are many kinds of dragons. Hearing this question, Luo Bin smiled. Unexpectedly, her body suddenly changed and transformed from a human into a dragon. The snow-white dragon that Wu Yu had seen before was as pure and noble as white jade. Every dragon scale was like a treasure. The perfect dragon appeared in front of him. She had not changed much, from the dragon tail to the dragon. The dragon head quickly circled Wu Yu's body several times, and finally the dragon head looked at Wu Yu. Her eyes were still as blue as the sea. Wu Yu was still a little shocked by being entangled by this divine dragon beast. After transforming into a divine dragon, she had the aura of being the emperor among dragons. To get close to her now, you still need to have a certain amount of ability. Ah! Doesn't this look bad? Luo Bin asked. Wu Yu used the immortal ape transformation to instantly transform into a golden immortal ape. At this time, he became more courageous and full of strength, and asked, then do you think I will become ugly like this? No, you are who you are, no matter what you look like, it has not changed in my heart, Luo Bin said. In the same way, I am too. Wu Yu felt that it would be safer to answer this way. In fact, he discovered that Luo Bin's character was not only quiet and gentle, nor just majestic and dignified. She was also playful, lively, and willing to make some little jokes with Wu Yu. There's nothing stodgy about it. Her dragon head is very close to Wu Yu. Indeed, she is the most beautiful among the dragons. Whether it is the dragon teeth or horns, eyes, ears, mouth, and nose, they are all very delicate. Even the silver dragon beard actually looks just like her long hair before. I am the Teku immortal spirit dragon, a very ancient divine dragon. It is said that our clan of divine dragons may take 1 yuan of time to appear. The growth space is much larger than that of other divine dragons. But in fact, we already have 5 yuan of time. There is no Teku dragon. The fairy dragon appears, and the last ancient fairy dragon recorded in history, besides me, died in the hands of the heaven-devouring demon ancestor. The ancient immortal spirit dragon. Wu Yu remembered it? He doesn't know much about the Shenlong clan, but he only needs to know that her bloodline is much higher than that of the god-refining demon dragon, raging sea blue dragon, purple star sky dragon, etc. 5 yuan time is it took 600,000 years for the Shenlong clan to appear, an ancient fairy spirit dragon like her. So, even if you reach heaven, you are still a divine dragon with top bloodline, right? Wu Yu asked. Maybe. With her capital, she can soar quickly even in heaven. She is indeed too good. Sometimes when Wu Yu faces her, he still feels a little inferior, especially since the road ahead seems to be troubled. After hearing this, Wu Yu doesn't want to hurt her anymore. I want her to fly to heaven and pursue her own path and limits. But Luo Bin, as if she knew what he was thinking, said, no matter what, it has already begun. Don't think about bearing everything alone. For her like this, Wu Yu felt that just being moved was no longer enough. /U003C -OUOOU /U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1144. As for the way out, the only conclusion that can be discussed at present is, to contact the ancient emperor. You must have a private contact to know the truth. Lupin can't help with this. If she confronts the ancient emperor now, it will be completely a suicide. It's useless. Wu Yu will never let her die. Lupin certainly hopes that what the ancient emperor said is true, then Wu Yu will be fine, and the world will be peaceful next. This entire world of Yanfu can be said to belong to Wu Yu. If not, there is no perfect countermeasure at all for the time being, and there will be no way. She whispered a lot with Lupin until night fell. After talking about many things over the years, Wu Yu understood her better, and she also understood Wu Yu better. Whether the two of them really get along well, they just need to chat more. People with different paths cannot work together. If the paths are completely opposite, they can never become Taoist companions. Fortunately, Wu Yu's views on many things are very similar to Luo Bin's, with some slight differences, and these slight differences are actually the charm of the other party that attracts him. For example, Luo Bin's tranquility and Wu Yu's fierceness are both attracting each other. When it was dark, the regent Dishishan had sent the details of tomorrow's coronation to Wu Yu with a communication talisman, and there were quite a few rules and regulations. Go back first, maybe he will look for you tonight, be careful, and keep the Green Mountains and you will never worry about lack of firewood. Luo Bin snuggled in his arms and said softly in silence. Okay. Wu Yu knew that after being in her gentle place for so long, enjoying the tranquility and peace, he would have to stand up and fight. Too much nostalgia would not be good for both parties. Even if he even wanted to stay with her forever, he knew very well that he had to leave here and accept his own challenges. This is a world of battle, not a world of rest. If you don't fight and meet challenges, this world will only eliminate you. For example, birth, aging, sickness and death, bullying by the strong, and death are all ways to be killed by the rules of this world. Similarly, because Wu Yu knows Luo Bin, he knows that the longer he spends with her, the more he will bring her death crisis and implicate her. Therefore, he is more aware of himself. When it is time to leave and when it is time to fight hard, he must not hesitate. So, he gently loosened his arms that had been in his arms for a long time and stood up with her. Even though her fragrance still lingered in his arms, it would not dissipate for a long time, and he was afraid that he would not be able to forget this tenderness today for a long time. I'll take you out. The two walked out. The reason why she took her out was probably because she was worried that other dragons would embarrass Wu Yu. After all, Wu Yu had stayed alone with Luo Bin for such a long time, and I'm afraid those dragons were sitting on pins and needles. Sure enough, when passing by the corridor, the dragons were still far away, staring at him with majesty and murderous eyes, intimidating Wu Yu. If Luo Bin was not beside him, they would definitely not be so simple. In fact, their eyes were also warning Wu Yu all the time. Luo Bin ignored them and sent Wu Yu to the door directly. Night had fallen, but in the night, she was so beautiful and charming. Under the moonlight, she was like a fairy. How could anyone be willing to leave her? In the future, I will be in the heavenly palace and be free with you. When the immortal couple lives forever, there are only two of us. When Wu Yu left, Luo Bin held his hand, raised her head slightly, and stared into Wu Yu's eyes with her azure eyes. This sentence is her wish, and also Wu Yu's wish. Wu Yu engraved the sentence in his heart. No matter how many bumps there are ahead, wait for me for another 5 years. The 10 years he said before have not actually arrived yet. He has now issued a military order himself. In another 5 years, he must truly and uprightly stand in front of her, and truly be able to live forever and ever with you. I won't marry until you come. The fairy music lingered, stored in his heart, and became Wu Yu's fate of life and death. It is my eternal honor to have your love. His voice choked, and he couldn't speak clearly. But after saying this, he knew that he should leave. It was very charming to get along with her. Maybe if it goes on like this, he really doesn't want to leave her side, but Wu Yu knows that this is not the right time at all. He must leave, so he resolutely decided not to stay anymore, turned around resolutely, and left quickly. He didn't look back. He knew that Luo Bin was watching him leave, and knew that she would eventually disappear in the moonlight. He left. Of course, he will ascend the throne tomorrow and meet again. It's just that tomorrow, it won't be as close as today. Luo Bin watched his figure disappear into the darkness without blinking for a moment. After Wu Yu left completely, she returned to the Kanglong Palace. Not long after entering, she saw those old men, all kneeling in front of her, including the refining god demon dragon. They said in a generous voice, "Dragon Lord, please think twice. My Shenlong clan is in decline and dying. We are responsible for the revitalization of the dragon clan. As a leader, you should set an example and fight for the expansion of the clan. It is not allowed by the clan rules to have a human as a Taoist partner. What's more, as the Dragon Lord, you need to set an example. Moreover, Wu Yu is the emperor of Yanhuang. My Shenling clan has kept a distance from the Yanhuang royal family since ancient times, so the Dragon Lord must not have any intersection with Wu Yu again." They had discussed it long ago, so they spoke in a particularly orderly manner. Luo Bin looked at them calmly and said, "What if I insist on having my own way? In fact, although she looks gentle and charming, at this time, she also has the aura of a queen and will never be intimidated by this old dragon." This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Those old dragons looked at each other with angry expressions. The red-blooded horned demon dragon said, "Otherwise, our blood will splash in the dragon palace." Luo Bin smiled and said, "You want to kill me?" The god-refining demonic dragon's face was dark and he said, "No, I am ashamed of my ancestors, so I can only commit suicide to apologize." Luo Bin burst out laughing. She looked at the god-refining demon dragon and said, "That's nice to say. Aren't you the one who has been making plans for me? You and I are not the same people, so don't have such wishful thinking." Her words made the god-refining demonic dragon's eyes become darker, but he didn't say much. Luo Bin took a deep breath, glanced at everyone, and finally said, "You don't have to worry. In the world of Jambu, I will not let you down. When I fly to heaven, I will be free. By then, there will be no more these are the clan rules." What she meant was that, at least in the world of Yanfu, she would not become a Taoist couple with Wu Yu. This can be regarded as not damaging the face of the dragon clan. Luo Bai did not tell them when she would become an immortal. After saying that, Luo Bin went deep into the palace and left them behind. Everyone looked at each other in confusion. The purple star sky dragon said, "What she means is that in the world of Yanfu, she will not become a Taoist couple with Wu Yu." "That's probably it." Fenjai Sunlong said, "She is too naive. When she reaches heaven, there are indeed no clan rules, but there are still heavenly rules and regulations. Besides, if our dragon clan becomes an immortal, we must first be controlled by our ancestors in heaven. Those ancestors, but I may not be willing to let him combine with the human race. This girl is getting more and more stubborn. What do you think is good about the human race? We have so many young talents." The god-refining demonic dragon narrowed his eyes and said, it is said that Wu Yu saved her when she was near death last time and helped her obtain the original dragon scales. Then this is bad fate. To put it nicely, we claim to be like-minded people, but they are just treating repayment as love. She is still young after all. It is also our fault, old guys, for not disciplining her properly. Luo Ben didn't want to hear what they said. What she decides in her heart will never be changed in the slightest, whether it is the rules of the clan or the rules of heaven. She and Wu Yu left behind a large number of basic talismans, tens of thousands in number. These can solve the pain of lovesickness in the future. Of course, if she goes to heaven and Wu Yu goes to other worlds, it will be difficult got in touch. While she was looking at the bustling night sky in the divine capital, Wu Yu returned to the emperor's mansion. In the ancient demon world, the sky-swallowing body took Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi to find a new base, which was more hidden than the previous one. They established a new base in this world and arranged many magic circles. The city of God today is extremely lively, with many magic formations shining brightly. Except for the part of the city of all nations that was not disturbed, other places are shining like daylight. There are lights and fireworks everywhere, and colorful lights are wandering everywhere. People were running in the streets and alleys, making a lot of noise, especially many children, jumping up and down, flying up and down, very active. It's strange to say that I didn't think this little female dragon was so good before, but now it seems that of all the women I've met, she is probably the most worthy of what a man should pay for her. Even I can't help but think about it. I'm going to fight for it. Ming Long had been silent until now, and now he was sighing. Wu Yu smiled. But now that you have become the emperor of Yan and Huang, you should build a big harem. Just like the ancient emperor, you will have tens of thousands of beauties. You will include all the beauties in the Jambu world into your harem. Then you will sleep with them and serve you. It's white flowers, and it's one of the great joys in life. Aren't you excited? She just said a nice thing, but she immediately became unserious. Wu Yu said, I'm not interested, let's forget it. That's a good relationship. I also like beauties. If you were to become a fairy, you could reborn me and help me, that would be beautiful. We will be brothers from now on. For her, Wu Yu only has 2 words. That is, speechless. He sat on the glazed roof and looked at the bustling night sky in the city of God. Fireworks are blooming in the sky and underground, and flowers are blooming. This country is waiting for him to take off. This is another night before the throne. He knew, Emperor Gu, that he would come. For the chapter Perfect Anti-Theft, please use the search engine to search for keywords and you can read various novels. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1145. The moonlight fell like silver snow, covering the palace pavilions of the divine capital. The glazed tiles under your feet shone under the moonlight. As the light circulated, you could see that there were many magic circles drawn on each glazed tile. In fact, each of these glazed tiles was a piece of glazed tile can be regarded as a top-notch magic weapon if you get it from Dongsheng Shenzhou. However, the main function of this magic circle is to increase its strength, so even if the top powerhouses fight in the palace, these bricks and tiles will not be easily destroyed. In fact, the history of the Shendu Palace is very long, and even the simplest one under the feet will not be destroyed easily. The glazed tiles may be hundreds of thousands of years old. On this lively night, Wu Yu was sitting on the top of the palace, holding a mirror in his hand. From the mirror, what appeared was the ancient character on his forehead. He was used to seeing the word in Emperor Zi's name. In fact, there is not much difference between the two, and Wu Yu doesn't know how this word came out. It has been hidden for many years, and it has just appeared now. No wonder you are not used to it. When Wu Yu was lost in thought, someone was speaking next to him. It was a very familiar voice. Wu Yu turned his head slightly, and a skinny old man sat next to him. His hair was dry and pale, his body was slightly rickety, and his eyes were a little hazy. Looks very old. Wu Yu has not seen him for a long time. He is Wu Yu's biggest regret, and now he is sitting next to him like this. For a moment, Wu Yu feels like he has returned to the Tongtian sword sect in a dream. He is Sun Wuodao. This appearance actually struck Wu Yu's heart more than the emperor of Suqiao and Feng Shui. But Wu Yu knew that he was the ancient emperor, and Wu Yu was here waiting for his appearance. He was full of guard, even though he didn't know how he suddenly appeared beside him. All this showed that he was far beyond On. The difference between him and ancient Emperor Yanhuang was quite similar to the difference between him and immortal Haoshan back then. Now Wu Yu understood even more how big the gap was. The gap between mortals and ascetics, and the gap between ascetics and immortals, is actually very big. He didn't make any dodge gesture, but in fact his whole body was already tense. On his left side, under the gaze of Wu Yu, Sun Wuodao shook his head and said, "This is indeed the appearance that you like the most, but in fact, my original appearance is not like this. The future is long, so I still just be yourself." After saying that, his body's flesh and blood continued to change. In front of Wu Yu's eyes, he transformed into a black-haired middle-aged man with a long beard. He looked like a monk who was 300 years old, so he was still very young. At this age, his appearance is basically the most outstanding thing Wu Yu has ever seen. In fact, his appearance is the same, but his temperament and aura are incomparable to ordinary people. This made Wu Yu deeply aware of, he is an immortal, especially his pair of eyes. One is burning like a shrunken scorching sun, and the other is like a faint blue moon, and even the moon has blue energy overflowing. This is who he is. Wu Yu could only say that they were indeed very similar to him. When others looked at them, they might immediately think that they were father and son. However, Wu Yu's temperament was strong and brave, while the ancient emperor seemed deep and quiet, but it was completely obvious that there was even endless flame hidden in this quietness. This is not what Emperor Dongguo, Feng Shui, or Sun Wuodao looked like. Wu Yu didn't say anything. Luo Bin asked himself to make a quick judgment. Obviously, he also wanted to know how to judge, but he knew that he couldn't test it too obviously. Everything had to wait for the ancient emperor to show himself. His presence here today obviously has a purpose. In this lively night, the two of them were wearing clothes in the wind. Let me tell you the whole story of this matter. The ancient emperor had a faint smile on his face. He was not in a hurry to get Wu Yu to acknowledge him. Wu Yu nodded. Gu Di obviously knew that he didn't believe him now, so he should be trying to gain Wu Yu's trust at this time. It's been a few years since now. I found the Tianhe town divine treasure iron that had been buried for a long time in the depths of the ocean. It may even be silent forever in the depths of the sea. For me, at this level, these are all peerless treasures. I spent a long time researching and pondering, and they also had some connections with the golden cudgel, but I could never conquer them. In the end, I came to the conclusion that what it needs is not me, but it was a blank inheritor, so I was disappointed that there was no way I could get it. While he was speaking, he suddenly stretched out his hand. He did not touch Wu Yu, but hooked his fingers. At this moment, Wu Yu suddenly felt that the Ruyi golden cudgel that disappeared in his body actually appeared, and there were some the movement seemed to be awakened by the ancient emperor. It was spinning around in Wu Yu's body, and he actually felt a little excited. It's an old friend. It has been with me for about 300 years. We get along day and night, but I can't inherit it. The ancient emperor smiled and shook his head. In Wu Yu's previous acquaintance, the ancient emperor was a terrifying being aloof from above. He could lay down millions of corpses without saying a word, just like he was killing the Ghost Flame clan. But now, he was like a wise elder, communicating and talking to Wu Yu. It was completely unimaginable that he was the only god in this Jambu world. He can actually communicate with the Ruyi golden cudgel. Minglong was quite shocked, because now the Ruyi Golden Cudgel has chosen Wu Yu, and being able to communicate with the Ruyi Golden Cudgel is really incredible, from her perspective, even more incredible. Wu Yu was also a little shocked, because the ancient emperor was using his method to prove his identity to Wu Yu. However, even so, Wu Yu still maintained his original precautions. He seemed to be in a storm now and must make a judgment. Otherwise, the road ahead may be vague, scary, and hopeless. At this time, the ancient emperor looked at the sky and said, "Later, I really understood that it was impossible for me, but I couldn't take advantage of others, right, so I decided to give it to me. Child. Later, my most important son was born. He was extraordinary and worthy of inheriting the Ruyi Golden Cudgel and inheriting the inheritance of the Monkey King. However, I know my emperors who grew up in the city of God very well. The sons and daughters of the emperor lack sufficient testing, so their ways are not the best, nor are they deep and wide enough, so I made a bold idea. The most important son he was talking about was, of course, Wu Yu. So, put me in Dongsheng Shenzhou, the mortal world," Wu Yu spoke. The ancient emperor nodded and said, "Yes, I have thought about this problem. From a mortal perspective, entering the world of monasticism is always a little different. Of course, it is not beyond my expectations. Growing up in that world, that kind of aggressiveness and resilience is truly unmatched." Wu Yu was silent. He was not affected. He looked at Wu Yu and said, "I started to arrange and select. First of all, Feng Shui, this frustrated disciple who came from Xuanhuan Immortal section. When I saw him, he was actually dead. He was in the hands of a little demon. I talked to his soul and learned his story, so I separated his soul and took over his body, making him come back to life. Of course, this is actually I, later on, took you back to the Tongtian sword sect and accepted you as a disciple. Everything I told you came from me." Wu Yu couldn't be sure of the authenticity of this matter, but he still nodded. What the ancient emperor meant was that the real Feng Shui had died a long time ago. He later became Wu Yu's master. It was the ancient emperor's split soul and Feng Shui's body that saved his life. Together they were equivalent to the ancient emperor. A clone of. The ancient emperor continued. At that time, I chose to let the little Tongtian sword sect allow you to step from a mortal to an immortal. Then, I searched around, looking for a place where you could grow up as a mortal in your childhood. I found it not far away. In the Dongyuwu kingdom, I originally wanted you to grow up in a farmer's family, but that starting point was too low. Later, I thought that being a prince in this mortal kingdom might help you to have a stronger character initially and have the courage to practice Taoism. In fact, at that time, the emperor of Suqiao also died in an assassination, so I took over his body and created a clone to play the role of a father who is not so close to you. What he meant was that Wu Yu's growth was all under his arrangement, including Immortal Haoshan, Emperor Suqiao, Feng Shui, not to mention Sun Wuodao. Wu Yu had questions and asked, "Are all my brothers and sisters your children?" Including Wu Yu. The ancient emperor smiled and shook his head, saying, "It's not that those older than you are basically the biological children of the original emperor of Suqiao. Those younger than you are considered the children of my avatar. It's just that at that time, I didn't have the right. If there are any changes to the body of the Suqiao emperor, they are actually the children of the original Suqiao emperor and have no blood relationship with you. Therefore, he and Wu Yu are not related by blood. But Wu Yu has always been his respected sister." This was a little hard for Wu Yu to accept. These are the truths told by the ancient emperor. The ancient emperor smiled and said, "I think you may have a hard time accepting it, but after all, these are facts. If not, how could it be such a coincidence? When you came out of the divine capital, you happened to meet me, and then when you arrived at the Tongtian sword sect, you happened to meet me who transformed into Sun Wuodao, and Sun Wuodao happened to deliver the Ruyi Golden Cudgel to you. During that period, You thought everything was luck, but in fact, it was all me. I delivered this treasure to you personally without letting you know. I recommend a book, The Supreme Mission, from the Great God of Dreams Entering the Ancient World, a good book on officialdom. I hope you all will support me. I am all crazy author friends, it is absolutely beautiful. For the chapter Perfect Anti-Theft, please use the search engine to search for keywords and you can read various novels. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1146. The ancient emperor stretched out his hand, patted Wu Yu's shoulder, and said, "Maybe this is a little hard for you to accept. In fact, for a while, I felt that there was no need for me to work so hard. Maybe if you grow up in the capital of God, maybe you will even better, but after seeing you now, I finally understand that those seemingly complicated methods at the beginning were not wrong. If you were in the capital of the gods, maybe you would still be a Emperor Yu or Emperor Yu even if you had the resources. But now, you are Wu Yu." Wu Yu didn't know how much he still knew about himself. At this point, he realized that it would be really scary if he was really a liar, but so far, all his words and demeanor were convincing. Wu Yu. Judgment, how else to judge? Do you know what kind of immortal the Monkey King is in heaven? Why would he leave a legacy? Don't immortals live forever? Wu Yu suddenly thought of this question, and he felt that he had to ask more. This question made the ancient emperor slightly startled, then nodded and said, "He is a very ancient and distant god. At his peak, he was indeed very strong, even terrifying, and he also had a top status in heaven. However, I don't know why he disappeared. I don't dare to let others know about his inheritance. You must not let other gods know. In heaven, there are many heavenly rules and regulations. Once violated, there will be consequences. It's very scary. I also went to find out about the Monkey King, and I found out that there once was such a top-notch immortal. I didn't expect that even he didn't know very well. That means it was really a long time ago." Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Wu Yu put aside his doubts first. Now that the ancient emperor had made it clear about Emperor Wu, Sun Wuodao, etc., he felt that it was time to take action and test it out. He said, "What you said is too mysterious for me. You don't mind if I raise some doubts, right?" Gu Di smiled and said, "Of course. If you have any doubts, just ask them." Wu Yu actually had a lot of details about his interactions with Sun Wuodao and the other three. If he asked and the other party could answer, it really meant that what Gu Di said was probably true, but he was also thinking that if he couldn't answer, if Wu Yu exposes it directly, will he fall out directly? He can only gamble. Therefore, he asked, "Do you remember that the first time my father beat me was because I did something wrong? This was a long time ago." Gu Di laughed dumbly and said, "You are so outstanding, but I have never beaten you." It can be said that Wu Yu was quite shocked. Because he was telling the truth. In his memory, the Suqiao emperor had indeed never beaten him. Where did I first see the Ruyi golden cudgel? Sun Wuodao is tied with a red rope around his neck. After asking these two questions, Wu Yu stopped asking. He knew that the more he asked, the more depressed the answers he would get would be. In fact, he was convinced in his heart that the ancient emperor had some intentions for him and that he had made it all up. After all, he couldn't accept that his life was designed. But the more he talked about it, the more he became confused. It was discovered that the Gu emperor was more sincere, and everything he said might be cruel, but it seemed to be reality. Actually, you don't have to worry. Whether you believe it or not, it's all up to you. Take your time. I don't want to affect your way in this way. After tonight, I won't show up again. I'll leave this Yanhuang to you. You will have a long time to think about this in the future. Even if you don't believe it, it doesn't matter. Time will tell everything. However, I have deceived you for too long. These are all my fault. There is one more thing. I have to make it clear to you. When Gude said these words, he seemed to have been prepared to say so. He was very calm and of course slightly apologetic. I'm listening, Wu Yu nodded. The ancient emperor looked at the sky and said, the reason why I say that you are different from other emperors' sons and daughters is because your mother is different from them. Their mothers are all ordinary ascetics, but your mother, she is a fairy in the heaven. Her name is Fairy Susang. She lives in the Suyu heavenly palace in the heaven. I don't have many opportunities to meet her. Due to the rules of heaven, I cannot tell you about her news, but if one day you can go to heaven, you can go to Suyu heavenly palace to find her. It is a decision made by both of us to train you in this way. This was undoubtedly a bombshell for Wu Yu. In his memory, neither of his parents were particularly fond of him. His father had too many children, and he focused all his energy on running the country or enjoying himself. However, her mother loved him, but she was too weak and died when Wu Yu was very young. Therefore, he never thought that there might be another situation where his parents were both immortals. One was the ancient emperor Yanhuang and the other was Fairy Susang. Is what Gude said true? Even Minglong was confused. Because he even told about Fairy Susang and Suyu Tiangong, and even asked Wu Yu to find her in the future. If this is all false, we can only say that the ancient emperor made it up. It is really amazing. He is what terrible purpose would there be to make everything look so real? You have the right to know that you are not a child without a father and mother at a young age. You have very few parents, but due to heaven's rules, you cannot see them often. Your mother cannot see you, unless you become an immortal one day. Gude looked at him. Wu Yu was in shock. He didn't know what to say. Today's changes were actually far beyond his expectation. He thought he could definitely see the lies of the ancient emperor, but at the beginning, the ancient emperor could communicate with Jin. The cudgel shocked him. Next, he even knew many details about Emperor Wu and son Wuodeo. Now, he even told Wu Yu about his mother. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. He was always vigilant because he didn't trust the ancient emperor from the bottom of his heart and had even transferred the clone away before that. But now, he was wondering if there was a possibility that it was because he had preconceived ideas already. Because at the beginning, he had an immortal inheritance, but found that the ancient emperor was very concerned about him, so he was afraid of him. However, if he was really his father, this kind of attention would be normal. So now, I'm really in a state of excitement, and I can't argue with what's true or false. The ancient emperor stood up at this time. He looked at Wu Yu and said, my Yanhuang clan has a long history in this world of Jamfu. It has been strong for generations and has never been cut off. In every generation, there are immortals who guard the world of Jambu God. I am the Yanhuang clan. I have been protecting the Yanhuang clan for too long. Now that I have you, I can safely hand over the Yanhuang clan to you. From now on, the future generations of the Yanhuang clan will depend on you. Speaking of which, maybe he is leaving and I don't know when he will show up again. At least now, it seems that he has said everything he needs to say to Wu Yu. He looked at Wu Yu and said with a smile, you don't need to feel any pressure. You are still young, too young. Take your time. In fact, you are only at the first level of the Dao realm now. When you truly break through the Dao realm, the 10th level, but it will take a long time. You will not become an immortal as quickly as the concubine Luo. Of course, once you become an immortal, it will be extremely terrifying. As the Emperor of Yanhuang, you will have endless resources. The pilgrims of all nations, baby, it's just a part of it. This Jambu world will be yours from now on. I hope that although you have different identities and know that your destiny is different, you must never change your way. That is your biggest treasure. The world of Jambu is your own from now on. What else can be said? Wu Yu looked at him and was shocked. Maybe, he really is his father. However, if not, it would be even more terrifying. What on earth does he want to do? He still seemed unable to make a judgment. But the ancient emperor told him that time would provide the answer. When Wu Yu was in a daze, before the ancient emperor wanted to leave, he suddenly remembered something and said, "By the way, I know what you are thinking. Is it just that you think I value your inheritance, so be wary of me? This is quite simple, I brought them here before." He waved his hand gently, and suddenly, two people appeared below. Wu Yu's eyes widened, they were Wu Yu and Feng Shui. Wu Yu took a look with his fiery eyes and saw that it was indeed them. Their level was really too low in this god city, so when they came here, they were suddenly exposed to such a strong spiritual energy. They couldn't stand it. Wu Yu immediately went down to isolate them. Wu Yu was in a panic. When she saw Wu Yu, she immediately grasped at straws. She looked around in a panic and said, Why am I here? Where is this place? It's okay, this is my territory. I asked you to pick you up. Wu Yu hugged her, told her not to panic, and comforted her. Next to her was Feng Shui, who was still the same as in the memory. At this time, he looked at Wu Yu with a smile and said, "It has been many years, and today you finally know the truth. There is no need for me to exist. I am just a clone. From the beginning to the end, it was him who was talking to you." Feng Shui pointed at the ancient emperor on the roof. However, he did not disappear, because Wu Yu still regarded him as his master and mentor. The ancient emperor said, "Let him stay with you. I will make him forget about me and concentrate on being his Feng Shui. He will only remember that there is a disciple like you." And what happened? Gu Di just finished speaking. Indeed, Feng Shui closed his eyes. When he opened them, he felt a little confused. Then he saw Wu Yu, and his reaction was probably similar to Wu Yu's. Wu Yu confirmed many times that it was indeed them. These were the only two people Wu Yu felt that the ancient emperor could threaten him. Now, he actually brought them right in front of him. He had already gone to get them here. At this time, Wu Yu was even more speechless. To be honest, if he doesn't trust the ancient emperor now, wouldn't it be fine if he just takes Feng Shui and Wu Yu away when the ancient emperor leaves? The writing during this period should be pretty good. Please add Madman's WeChat, search the official account, or add Feng Qinjiang. After a while, a big mystery and surprise will be posted here for everyone, don't miss it. 3 chapters. For the chapter Perfect Anti-Theft, please use the search engine to search for keywords and you can read various novels. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 1147. The night before the coronation was like a dream. He was ready to welcome the ancient emperor. He had expected that he might win his trust today, or even convince himself. However, after making all preparations to resist, he still didn't expect that he seemed to be convinced. In particular, the other party sent Wu Yu and Feng Shui, who Wu Yu was worried about, to his eyes. This was clearly his handle. Now, if Wu Yu took them to a safe place, wouldn't that mean that he would be completely free from the ancient emperor? But the ancient emperor didn't mean to be afraid at all. His only attitude was that he didn't care whether Wu Yu believed it now, but just told Wu Yu that time would give Wu Yu the answer. So now, the facts are developing in the opposite direction of Wu Yu's imagination. He wanted to quickly conclude that the ancient emperor was harmful to him, but the current situation is that no matter what aspect, it is preventing him from making such a judgment. He thought that the night before the coronation might be another disaster for him. But he didn't expect that the ancient emperor would leave. He said, "In the future, maybe you will know my current position. I can't appear too often in the mortal world and communicate with the cultivators. Xuanhuan will be handed over to you in the future. I am afraid that I will not appear again in the short term. Before leaving, there are two things I want to tell you. Wu Yu remembered that he said that he would basically not appear before. Please speak until now. He did not believe what the ancient emperor said, so it was difficult for him to call the ancient emperor his father, but the ancient emperor did not care at all. The ancient emperor said, the first thing is about the girl next to you who also inherited the immortal. Her name seems to be Yezixi. At that time, her parents awakened the ancient demon god and broke the seal. I had no choice. According to my duty, I had to kill them, otherwise the entire world of Yanfu would fall into chaos and misery. Therefore, it is also unfortunate that I became the father-killing enemy of your friend. I don't want to embarrass you about this matter. You can tell her that if she has the ability, she can seek revenge from me. You don't have to be the one who is embarrassed in the middle. This is my personal matter. You just need to avoid it completely. I didn't expect that she knew so much about Yezixi's affairs. To be honest, I never thought that in our small world of Jamview, there would be 3 immortal inheritances, and you discovered them before me. In fact, if they were not your good friends, and if they were not as close as brothers, I might restrict them a little. After all, they got the inheritance in the world of Jamview, and this is the place I protect. However, seeing that they have such a good relationship with you, and even respect you, and will be your assistants in the future, I will not care about them and let them grow naturally. The ancient emperor said seriously. It turned out that he already knew that they all had immortal inheritance. He was a god who protected this world. The immortal inheritance appeared in this world. He was indeed qualified to ask about it, or even to control it, but he did not. Now he also gave Wu Yu the reason, because they had a good relationship with Wu Yu, and he was willing to let these 2 people become Wu Yu's future assistants. This explanation is also reasonable. So far, the ancient emperor has no flaws. Perhaps, he himself had no flaws, because everything he said was true. From the beginning to now, he was very sincere. He seemed to know that his training method would alienate Wu Yu from him, but he did not regret it. He was very proud of Wu Yu's current performance. As for the rest, he believed that everything would have an answer as time passed. What about the second thing? Wu Yu asked, and he wrote it down. Today, he felt that he should not rush to make a conclusion about everything he heard and saw, but should calm down and think about it first. The ancient emperor was also very direct and said, in fact, I have been paying attention to the dispute between you and the devouring demon ancestor from beginning to end. In the end, you won and gained a huge reward. The soul of the devouring demon ancestor was sealed in the Ruyi golden cudgel, and it was basically difficult to turn over. But your clone needs to be slightly careful. Don't lose control and let it become the next devouring demon ancestor. If that happens, it will inevitably cause disastrous consequences, and I may not be able to deal with it. That would be my fault. Wu Yu felt that in his eyes, he might really have no secrets. He even knew the devouring body. Up to now, the only thing he didn't seem to talk about was the floating life tower and the gate to the ancient demon world, but Wu Yu often used the floating life tower, so he must know about it. Regarding the devouring heaven body, he asked himself to pay attention to control, but he didn't care too much. After he finished speaking, he smiled and said, "Okay, I have told you everything I should say, explain, and express in my heart. The stone in my heart for many years has been pulled down, and I should go and relax. You should be a good emperor of Yanhuang. The key is not to relax and make progress. You must surpass the ancient fairy dragon as soon as possible. Otherwise, you will have a lot of trouble to get along with her. After all, the power of the dragon fairy beast in the heaven is really not small, and her bloodline is extremely precious even in the heaven. His eyes shone on Wu Yu like a warm light. For a moment, his eyes really made Wu Yu feel a sense of father. It was very strange, but also very real. Son, I know that what I did was too much and caused you too much suffering, but I am still waiting for the day when you can willingly call me father. He said this with a smile. After he finished speaking, his body changed into stars in the night sky, and finally disappeared in the brilliant and prosperous night sky. He could no longer be found in the field of vision and perception. Feng Shui and Wu Yu, who were beside Wu Yu, had not spoken before. They did not dare to interrupt the conversation between Wu Yu and a mysterious man, but the content of the conversation surprised them. After the ancient emperor left, Wu Yu and Feng Shui hurriedly asked Wu Yu what happened. This matter is too complicated. I will tell you in detail later. Now I have to ensure your safety. I forgot to tell you that this is the capital of the ancient country of Yanhuang in the ancient domain of Yanhuang. And tomorrow, I may ascend the throne and become the emperor of the ancient country of Yanhuang. The two of them had no idea how huge this capital of gods was. They had many doubts. Wu Yu split an avatar and slowly told them the whole story, but most of his mind was actually immersed in thinking about everything before. Of course, there was also a discussion with Ming Long. What do you think? Wu Yu asked. From my perspective, after hearing so much, especially that he could actually control the Ruyi Bang, I think you may have had a preconceived notion from the beginning, and everything he said may be true. So, you, kid, are not a poor person. You have been a second-generation immortal since childhood. No wonder you are so lucky. It turns out that from beginning to end, there are immortals escorting you. I said, why did I die after getting the Ruyi Bang, while you have been in danger so many times, but you are still alive? In addition, how did you become so powerful so quickly in the ancient Soul Tower, the ancient Emperor Dao Palace, and the Central Sun, and finally you reached the realm of asking for the way and saw the Golden Giant attack? It seems that your immortal father designed it for you, right? Ming Long has already reached her conclusion. At the beginning, she was shocked that the ancient emperor could actually trigger the Ruyi Bang. Wu Yu himself was thinking. Ming Long's idea was her own. In such an important matter, Wu Yu still believed in himself. Anyway, except for Luo Ben, they are the most important people to me in this world. I sent them to the ancient demon world for a while. The great luck there is also good for their cultivation. My heaven-swallowing body is also there. Without them, I can at least feel relieved even if I stay here. Regardless of whether the ancient emperor is real or fake, since he sent Wu Yu and others here, Wu Yu will protect them in the ancient demon world. Anyway, even if the ancient emperor is really his father, there is no loss. After Wu Yu and others go there, Wu Yu plans to put the silver unicorn, black phoenix, and other puppets there. Wu Yu opened the door to the ancient demon world. In a quarter of an hour, his lawless clone told Wu Yu and others some important things. Wu Yu and the two of them also roughly knew what the situation was. In fact, you don't have to worry about us. We are just insignificant mortals. Wu Yu listened to it and looked at Wu Yu with some blame. Yes, that's a god. Feng Shui was also confused when he heard that he was the clone of the god. He knew everything when he came, but the ancient emperor cleared him out and asked him to be a Feng Shui. The methods of the gods are really incredible. If I go to the ancient demon world, what will happen to Dongguo? Yes, there is also Tongtian sword section. Wu Yu said, don't worry about this, I will send people there immediately to ensure that the disciples of Dongguo and Tongtian sword sect will be quiet for generations. Among the others, Wu Yu is most concerned about his senior sister Su Yanli, but after all, Su Yanli is not like Feng Shui, who is the person who changed his life, and the ancient emperor will not pay attention to her. Although they still have some worries, Wu Yu did not give them time to think. When the door to the ancient demon world was opened, he rushed in with the two of them and soon came out in the territory of the cat demon in the ancient demon world. Wu Yu did not communicate with them much, and directly took them to the direction of the new base. If this Feng Xiu cliff is the clone of the ancient emperor, wouldn't the ancient emperor know your location when you went to the new base? Ming Long asked. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 1148. Wu Yu did not expect this. He looked at Feng Shui and saw that his mentor was still the same as before. This made Wu Yu a little embarrassed. He frowned and said, if it is a clone, it means that what the ancient emperor said is right. Then he won't follow me. If what the ancient emperor said is false and made up, then my master is not his clone, and the ancient emperor may not be able to come here, so he shouldn't be worried. Indeed, I think even if he is a god, it is impossible for him to come to another world. And from what he means, the rules of heaven are quite strict. Strict procedures are required to hear gods descend to the earth. Ming Long nodded. Anyway, we don't know how far the gods' methods can go. We can only follow the method we think is safe. Traveling quickly through this ancient demon world, Wu Yu is now much stronger than before, so his speed is also much faster now, and there is not much to worry about. They are indeed not affected by the killing period of this ancient demon world. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. And there are no demon gods in this ancient demon world. These demon gods will not allow the ancient emperor to come in casually. Ming Long thought this way. No matter what, Wu Yu sent them to the new base. Nanshan Wanjiao had arranged the place to be quite hidden. This place is also under the underground abyss, which is difficult to find, and there are a lot of resources in the Yanhuangju. Can be used to set up illusion magic circles. Wu Yu roughly checked the flame gold bead and found that there were really many treasures in it, including dozens of Tianling Taoist artifacts and countless other treasures. However, Wu Yu was not in the mood to look at these treasures for the time being. At this time, the most important people around him, Nanshan Wanjiao, Yezixi, Wu Yu and Feng Shui, were all here. Wu Yu also left the Silver Unicorn and Black Phoenix here to enhance the combat effectiveness here. They sat together, and Wu Yu's true form told Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi everything the ancient emperor had said to him tonight. Especially when it came to Yezixi, Wu Yu told her the truth. What the ancient emperor meant was that it was his duty and he had done nothing wrong, but Yezixi could take revenge and Wu Yu didn't have to get involved. Is that what he said? But, don't I want to kill your father? After Yezixi heard this, she was already in a daze and couldn't help crying. Girl, don't think too much. First of all, he is a god. When will you be able to take revenge? Secondly, it is not certain whether all of this is true. Nanshan Wanjiao he curled his lips and said. Yezixi said blankly, why isn't it true? He knows so many things about us. He even returned Wu Yu and sister Wu to brother Yu. He even told brother Yu's mother, Fairy Susang, brother Yu can go to Suyu Tiangong to find her. These are all proofs. What he said is true, and he can communicate with Ruyi Golden Cudgel. How can it be false? Wu Yu looked at Nanshan Wanjiao and said, do you think something is still wrong? Nanshan Wanjiao lowered his head, shook his head, and said, no, I grew up in an environment of intrigue, so my first attitude towards everything is distrust, no matter what the ancient emperor has done. There is no amount of evidence, but I still think that he is a god, and maybe everything is still under his control, including these two. Are you sure that he is your sister and master? There has been no manipulation on them. The question of Nanshan Wanjiao is indeed very sharp. But after hearing this, Wu Yu and Feng Shui were at a loss. They could only look at Wu Yu, not knowing what to say. I've made sure many times, no problem. When he said this, Wu Yu became worried. In fact, he had read it in detail countless times. He was very familiar with what kind of people Wu Yu and Feng Shui were. Clearly, I think I won't make any more mistakes, but as Nanshan Wanjiao said, how do you know the methods of gods? Brother Nanshan, don't think too much. If you doubt like this, Sister Wu Yu and Uncle Feng will also be unhappy. Nanshan Wanjiao sighed and said with a headache, forget it, I won't say more. After all, I don't have any evidence. It's really a headache to go against the gods because I don't know what kind of ability he has. What does he know and what he can do, what they did, maybe they are much scarier than we thought, maybe they are just us after becoming stronger, anyway, we don't know. After thinking about it, there is at least 90% possibility that he is really your father. It's the 10%, haven't we accomplished our initial purpose, can you just stay here longer? Anyway, you have nothing to worry about. Wu Yu was actually thinking about it too. Looking at the moon at Nanshan and looking at the night sky are two directions. He knew what it meant to look at the moon on Nanshan Mountain. Anyway, stay vigilant. You are right. The current situation is much better than we imagined. Although we don't know what the means are, we can be considered safe here. After all, the ancient demon world, the possibility that he knows about the door is relatively small. Are you going to ascend the throne tomorrow? Nanshan Wanjiao asked. Wu Yu said, we must go, at least Luo Bin hasn't returned to Sihai Dragon Palace yet. Nanshan Wanjiao nodded without saying much. Wu Yu knew that all his suspicions stemmed from the panic in his heart, because if the ancient emperor was really a bad person, then Nanshan Wanjiao would also be one of his targets. Or, let me go back. After all, I might be his accomplice, Feng Shui thought for a while and asked Wu Yu. Wu Yu used his fiery eyes to investigate again and again. He only had the power of an ordinary purple mansion Kanghai realm and was not a threat. He still insisted on letting him stay here. This chapter is not over yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. If the ancient emperor is not my father, then you have nothing to do with him. Staying there will only be dangerous, Wu Yu said. We don't want to implicate you. You are a person who wants to become an immortal. Don't be because of us. Wu Yu said worriedly. Wu Yu smiled and said, don't think so. This has nothing to do with you. I just want you to be safe. If the ancient emperor really has some bad intentions, you can't change anything. In this world, Wu Yu can let them practice well here. The spiritual energy here is more abundant than that of the God City. I believe that in a short time, their progress will be quite huge. We can never guess the methods of the gods. I don't know why, but I have a bad feeling. But I can't give any evidence, because I'm not a god, I don't understand. Nanshan Wanjiao looked at Wu Yu, shook his head helplessly, and smiled. Don't be too pessimistic. As long as we don't die, no one can stop us, even gods. Wu Yu still has faith. Maybe now, they don't understand anything, but he is not afraid of the future. Nanshan Wanjiao is just speaking based on his experience, and Yezixi believes in the evidence, because the evidence also conquered Wu Yu. Wu Yu is going back and ascending the throne tomorrow. After all, Luo Bin has not returned to the Four Seas Dragon Palace yet. If Luo Bin goes back, then he can both his original body and the body of devouring heaven, and venture into the ancient demon world here. If he goes back less, won't he be less likely to fall into danger? There is still some time tonight, and he wants to find Luo Bin again. In the Yanhuang Gold Pearl, there is a kind of heavenly spirit Dao instrument with a magic array of more than 500,000, called the Heart God Temple, which is in the shape of a palace. Wu Yu asked Nanshan Wanjiao to sacrifice and refine this Heart God Temple, and then directly embed it in this new base. They will temporarily live in this Heart God Temple. The interior of this heavenly spirit Dao instrument is actually quite huge, like a city. Just a few of them are inside. It is quite spacious, and they can be transferred at any time. It also has an illusion magic array, which is much stronger than those arranged by Nanshan Wanjiao. Wu Yu's original body left first, and his heaven-devouring body stayed here to settle Wu Yu and Feng Shui, so that they would not be bored here. Wu Yu could just guide them to practice. There are a lot of resources in the Yanhuang Gold Pearl. No matter how poor Wu Yu's qualifications are, Wu Yu is sure to let her reach the realm of Yuan Shen, especially in this ancient demon world. His original body kept jumping in the ancient demon world until he left the Heart God Temple far away, then he opened the door to the ancient demon world and returned to the capital. With the Heart Palace, he can even transfer many people to the ancient demon world, but the ancient demon world is also full of crises, so it is not necessary for the time being. The god's capital is still bustling. In the world of ascetics, there is no sleep at all. Everyone is waiting for tomorrow to come. After letting Wu Yu and others go to the ancient demon world, Wu Yu is back now and feels a lot more relaxed. Now in this world of Yama, the only thing to worry about is Luo Bin. Fortunately, Luo Bin has the Four Seas Dragon Palace. And Nangong Wei is one of them. Others, such as Princess Yuyan, Su Yanli, etc., or the Emperor Marshal of Yanhuang Emperor City, the ancient emperor will not pay attention to them. Thinking of Nangong Wei, Wu Yu thought of what Luo Bin said. He thought about what happened in the past few days, and he couldn't help wondering, could it be that she has remembered the experience of Dongsheng Shenzhou? Or, she has never forgotten it? Ming Long curled his lips and said, of course she didn't forget it, otherwise, she wouldn't be half-hearted when you were in the ancient Soul Tower. But it's already a headache now, and thinking of Nangong Wei, it's even more headache. The emperor's mansion was extremely quiet. Late at night, Wu Yu was going to find Luo Bin to tell her about the conversation with the ancient emperor today. He already knew the views of Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi. He wanted to know what Nangong Wei would think about this matter. He headed towards Wangguo City in the night wind. Suddenly, he received a communication talisman, which was from Nangong Wei. He had almost forgotten when he left the original talisman with Nangong Wei. The key point is, it says, I want to see you. Yajun Forest. Yajun Forest is a forest in the divine capital, where many immortals grow. It is a place with abundant spiritual energy in the divine capital. The Taoists in the divine capital often practice in Yajun Forest, or ponder Taoist magic. It is a quiet place in the divine capital. Wu Yu has not been there much, but he knows where it is. Yajun Forest is very large, and she did not say the specific location. But should he go or not? He originally wanted to find Luo Bin, but Nangong Wei suddenly sent him a communication talisman at this time. What does it mean? Forget it, let's see what she wants to do. It won't take much time anyway. He changed direction and went to Yajun Forest. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1149. Yajun Forest is actually a continuous mountain range with crisscrossing mountains. It is about 100 times larger than the Bibo Mountains. In Yajun Forest, there is a long-term fairy mist, and there are countless fairies. Many Yanhuang people practice in seclusion here. There are even a few demons hiding in the mountains and rivers. In fact, there are still quite a lot of people in Yajun Forest on weekdays. This time, because of the pilgrimage of all nations, everyone is outside watching the Battle of the Ancient Soul Tower, so Yajun Forest is almost empty. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow digit G. The Battle of the Ancient Soul Tower has just ended. Tomorrow is the day when Emperor Yu ascends the throne. There are big events one after another, so it is naturally lively outside. So when Wu Yu came to Yajun Forest, he found that there were really few people within 100 miles. The ghost cultivators, demons, and other cultivators from the world of Yama are probably still staying in Wangguo City to discuss Wu Yu's affairs, and are not wandering in the bustling capital of gods. For most non-Yanhuang people, it is not a good thing for them that the Yanhuang people have a new emperor like Wu Yu. There are also quite happy ones, such as the Beiming Empire. With the relationship between Wu Yu and Princess Yuyan, it is basically confirmed that the next generation of the Beiming and Yanhuang peoples will have a better relationship because of this. Because of her relationship with Wu Yu, Princess Yuyan has obviously become a popular candidate for the next Beiming emperor, and should be the only candidate. At her age, when she has reached the realm of asking questions, no other princes and princesses can compare with her. It can be said that some are happy and some are sad. Wu Yu entered the smoke-filled, uninhabited Yajun forest. She is here, what is she looking for me for? With doubts, Wu Yu went deep into the Yajun forest at a rapid speed. Soon he was surrounded by endless mountains and forests, with high mountains and abysses crisscrossing. You didn't say where you are. Yajun forest is so big, it's really hard to find her. Just when he was about to ask her where she was, he received her original talisman, which said, "Go east, I'm in Maple Leaf Valley." Wu Yu got the news and immediately went east. He had never been to the Maple Leaf Valley, but it was not difficult to find it. By the way, she asked me to go east, so she must know my location. How could she know where I am? This is a bit incredible. There are too many strange things recently. He went east all the way and looked down from a very high place. Finally, he saw an orange-red valley among the mountains. The valley was full of maple trees, which was somewhat conspicuous in the clouds. Wu Yu quickly fell down. His fiery eyes penetrated the clouds and mist, and scanned the valley. He soon found the only living being in it, that is Nangong Wei, Princess Huangzi. This Maple Leaf Valley is a relatively deep place in Yajun Forest, and there are not many people on weekdays. Wu Yu really didn't know what she wanted him to do here. Of course, this is the capital of the gods, the territory of the ancient Emperor Yanhuang, and Wu Yu didn't think that the Phoenix Lord behind her would dare to do anything to him. This should be Nangong Wei's intention alone. She probably just found a remote place. This maple valley is full of orange-red maple leaves. The whole world is orange, which is very beautiful. There is a clear and transparent river flowing through the middle. There are many large rocks on the river, which are all rounded by the water. In this world full of maple leaves, on a blue stone by the river, a woman wearing a fiery red long skirt, black hair to the waist, and snow-white skin, sat sideways on it. The red skirt swayed sideways, revealing two smooth calves, which swayed in the water, looking playful and cute. Such Nangong Wei really made Wu Yu dream back to the past, when she was a teenager, when Wu Yu had just met her. Maple leaves, flowing water, and a girl in a red skirt. This scene, with its impact of memories, made Wu Yu hold his breath for a moment. It must be said that it was indeed beautiful, a kind of lively and moving beauty. But soon, Nangong Wei found that he had arrived. She gently swung her long skirt to cover her calves and sat on the blue stone. Wu Yu was already standing under the blue stone. She looked down at Wu Yu with a calm face and said, "Your status is different now. You will soon become the Emperor Yu. Not to mention the ancient country of Yanhuang, you are the most authoritative person in the entire world of Yanfu. I thought that if a nobody like me wanted to see you, you would ignore me." Wu Yu looked up at her and said, "How can the dignified Princess Huangzi be a nobody? The princess wants to see me, I had to rush here without stopping." Nangong Wei rolled her eyes at him and said, "Come on, you don't really mean to call me princess. It's far inferior to your title of Emperor Yu. Today you have truly turned over a new leaf. From a mortal, you have become the son of an ancient emperor. The whole world is envious of you. I also congratulate you. Not only have you become Emperor Yu, but you have also hooked up with the Four Seas Dragon Lord. You are successful in life and love. Congratulations, congratulations." The more she spoke, the more unbalanced, unwilling, and even jealous she was. However, she did not hide it in her heart, but said it directly, which shows that she has figured out some problems. "Are you going to see me today just to congratulate me?" Wu Yu's eyes met hers. Nangongwei turned her head, avoided Wu Yu's eyes, looked at the flowing water in the river, and said, "Yes, yes, I have finished congratulating you. From now on, you will walk on your Yangguan road, and I will walk on my single plank bridge. You and I will never be together again. It doesn't matter a single cent, you can get out, get out." The more she spoke, the more she trembled, and finally her voice was choked with sobs. But she finally held it back, faced Wu Yu, kept a smile on her face, and signaled that Wu Yu could leave. Wu Yu sighed. "Dongsheng Shenzhou has ended, and we still meet here. No matter how you say it, it is a bad fate." She was unhappy in her heart, but she was still very stubborn in front of Wu Yu. She just liked to sit on this bluestone and look down at Wu Yu. She didn't like the slightest sign of weakness in front of her. Maybe she wanted Wu Yu to remember him. Keep her smile now and let him understand that she doesn't care about everything. Wu Yu did not leave. He thought for a long time and was silent for a long time. Finally, his eyes met with the smiling Nangongwei again, and then he looked at the rushing water by the river. He began slowly and said, "Actually, you have to make peace with Qiang's sword immortal. You raised you, how can you let him work for you every day?" To this day, Wu Yu certainly knows that she has remembered the things about Dongsheng Divine Continent, or in other words, she has never forgotten the things about Dongsheng Divine Continent from the beginning. Those things she did before were all done in front of Wu Yu acting, or in other words, she didn't want Wu Yu to know that she remembered the past. When Wu Yu said those words, Nangongwei hesitated for a moment. She knew, and Wu Yu found out. However, she was not too surprised. Instead, she kept her smile and said, "You don't have to worry about it. That's my own father. I've already declared peace with him." "I see, that's the best." Wu Yu nodded. Then looking at her again, she still looked at Wu Yu with a smile and said, "Is there anything else to say? Let's solve it together. Anyway, we won't meet again in the future." It seemed that she wanted to say goodbye. Perhaps, she felt that she should quit forever. Wu Yu no longer needed her around. He had become Emperor Yu, and there were gods and gods like the Dragon Lord of the Four Seas. She is no worse than any woman in the world, except Luo Bin. She could see that Wu Yu and Luo Bin looked at each other differently. Wu Yu really had a lot of doubts, but she actually opened her mouth, so he didn't ask politely. His gaze did not give way, and Nangongwei also looked at him with a smile. Their eyes met each other, and there was a fierce collision. She seemed to no longer want to dodge from Wu Yu's gaze. Wu Yu looked at him and asked, "You must be the person I met on the last step of the 5 steps in the Heavenly Demon Emperor's mansion. I know now that it was not an illusion." At first, Wu Yu guessed from the situation of Nanshan Wanjiao that it was fake Nangongwei, but now that the situation is like this, he has no choice but to guess like this. At that time, she took off her dress and asked herself if it was still possible. Wu Yu did remember that scene very clearly. He was shocked at the time. He just knew that it was an illusion and didn't think much about it. But if it was really her? In his eyes, Nangongwei did not hesitate and replied directly, "Yes, it's me, what can you do? I already regret it, and I swear that I will never be so stupid or despicable again in my life." "Of course, you don't need to, so just forget about it." I didn't expect that she would say this. At this time, her flame-filled eyes stared at Wu Yu. There might be tears in them, but they were quickly incinerated. Such a stubborn look must have put some pressure on Wu Yu. I thought she would quibble, but she admitted it. "That's just right, so this is your masterpiece? What effect does it have? How can it be released?" He would never forget the phoenix mark on his neck. In fact, Luo Bin has seen this mark. The clear phoenix pattern is obviously related to Nangong Wei. However, she only clicked on it and did not say anything about the mark. This is Luo Bin's character and her wisdom. Seeing the mark on his neck, Nangong Wei was startled, then gritted her teeth and said, "This is the thing I regret the most. If I could do it again, I would never do such a stupid thing to you." "Let's make it clear," Wu Yu said. Nangong Wei's eyes were trembling a little. It was too difficult for her to smile deliberately, but she still persisted. While persisting, she said, "This is the eternal phoenix seal. It is a secret technique of my eternal phoenix. It can only be used in a lifetime, cast it once, so you can only erase this mark if you die, but don't worry, it has no detrimental effect on you. Its only function is to let me know your location. But I swear, from now on, I will not. I'll use it to find you again." No wonder she found him easily in the second level of the ancient Soul Tower. No wonder she let herself go east just now. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1150. Don't worry, I won't bother you. From now on, you will be your emperor Yu and I will be my princess Huang 11. I will not have any intersection with you, let alone affect you and concubine Luo. I do regret the matter of the eternal phoenix seal, but there is no other way. If I had a choice, I would never impulsively put it on you." She breathed a sigh of relief and said this, as if she was relieved. This is not the same as Wu Yu's memory. In his memory, she would be very fierce. If there was any conflict with him, she would quarrel and even fight with Miracle. Anyway, she would not compromise, let alone directly admit that she regretted it. Maybe, she has matured and changed. When the maple leaves fell, her fiery red dress fluttered slightly in the wind, and the orange-red veil was lifted up. Her fair face was slightly tired, but it still couldn't hide her current appearance and temperament. It would be great if there was a way to give it back to you. Wu Yu's mind was even more confused about all this. Nangong Wei, she now wants to get out of Wu Yu's world, of course Wu Yu can't stop her. Thinking carefully, he did cause her a lot of trouble. Rarely, she is so decisive. No need to return it, in my heart, it no longer exists. Nangong Wei took off her forced smile. She was probably a little tired, lowered her head, and looked at the rushing water in the river. Not long after, she stood up on the blue stone. The fiery red long skirt was wet by the water, inadvertently showing her graceful figure. This exquisite curve is indeed not the little girl in Wu Yu's memory. She is very complicated. Let's go. Tomorrow you will ascend the throne. Huangzun will go, and I won't go. Never see you again, Nangong Wei said lightly. Maybe she could say it lightly, at least she thought that if she left like this today, they would never meet again. Wait, Wu Yu still called her. Nangong Wei turned around and looked at him indifferently. Wu Yu thought for a moment and said, "Answer my last question." Nangong Wei nodded. Wu Yu asked, "What is Huangzun's purpose in training you? Does she have any intentions against you?" Wu Yu must care about this question because it concerns her life and death. After asking, Nangong Wei's eyes suddenly surged with anger. She said in a somewhat tough tone, "I have made it very clear that I have nothing to do with you. What kind of person Huangzun is has nothing to do with you. That is my own business. I can solve it myself and I have the ability to solve it. Don't bother you, and you don't need to worry at all." Wu Yu was still a little uncomfortable with her fierce response. He said, "It's not necessary, after all, this is a serious matter." "Shut up. Don't you understand? I said, I don't want to have any intersection with you in the future. I don't want to have any trace of you in my life. I want to forget you completely. I don't want to live under your shadow anymore. I don't want to be humble like dust in front of you anymore. So, don't bother me, okay?" As she said this, tears came out, and she couldn't stop at all. When she cried, her whole body was shaking. After she finished speaking, perhaps because she didn't want Wu Yu to see her emotional breakdown, she turned around and turned into the immortal phoenix, flew up to the sky, away from here, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The only thing left in this maple leaf valley was the residual fragrance of her body. Wu Yu didn't expect her reaction to be so big. There was a sentence that made Wu Yu really understand her thoughts. She said, "I don't want to be humble like dust in front of Wu Yu anymore." This is her real thought. Wu Yu really hit her hard. So, no matter what the future holds, she wants to face it on her own. She doesn't want to have any intersection with Wu Yu. She wants to completely cut off ties with this person in her life. If they meet again, she would rather not bear the feeling of humiliation than die. How could it come to this? How could she hate me so much? He looked at the sky, and there was really no answer. You hurt this girl's self-esteem. She is really depressed and has lost face in front of you. To be honest, she is really struggling. Sometimes she hates you, and sometimes she thinks of your kindness to her, and is attracted by your charm, and then does impulsive things, such as this eternal phoenix seal, such as the time in the ancient soul tower. She did not resist your invasion at all, but when she came out, she saw that you became Emperor Yu again, and there was that Lupin, who was high above her. Of course it hit her. What a miserable little girl. Okay, stop analyzing. The things in the past are all very long ago. This one is indeed a bad fate, entangled. Even Wu Yu himself is confused. He once said that he and Nangongwei had different paths and could not work together. But now, the path they had back then is no longer the path they had now. They are no longer the same as they were back then. In short, it is not that fate. Getting along with her is never as harmonious as when I was with Luo Bin. There are always disputes. Nangongwei left Yujinlin in one direction, and Wu Yu chose to go in another direction. The night wind was very cold. After leaving Yujinlin, it was still quite lively outside. Wu Yu was on the bustling street, heading to Wangguo City. He was now shuttling everywhere, and no one could find him. Now it seems that the time to ascend the throne is getting closer and closer. Wangguo City, Kanglong Palace. This time, Wu Yu went directly to the back garden, since this was his territory anyway. It was night, with stars twinkling. Under the starlight, Luo Bin was still in the pavilion. In the darkness, her body was glowing white, and dragon scales were faintly visible on her skin. Seeing her again, it felt very different from when she was with Nangongwei. Her simple glance and smile could calm Wu Yu down, and he felt that the whole world was quiet, and in the quietness, there was only her. You are still alive, which is the best news for me. It can be seen that she was also anxiously waiting for news from Wu Yu. She never left here for a moment. Under the starlight, Wu Yu stood in front of her, and felt that she was the most beautiful fairy under the night sky. Whether it was the silver white hair or the snow white skin in the starlight, they were all perfect. Hug. Body temperature, heartbeat, truly feeling a person's existence, feeling the feeling of melting water. Tell me, she wanted to know what Wu Yu's judgment was tonight. It's impossible to judge. I'll tell you all the details from beginning to end. In fact, Wu Yu also used the magic circle to record all the words he said to him at that time. Now he doesn't need to say anything. He activates the magic circle, and a picture appears in the magic circle. In the picture, Wu Yu and the ancient emperor began to talk. Luo Bin watched very carefully, her eyes never left. She was not only listening, but also observing carefully, observing the ancient emperor's demeanor, expression, and movements. There are also some things that Wu Yu told her about his feelings at that time. Until the magic circle demonstration was completed, Wu Yu told her his way of handling it, taking Wu Yu and Feng Shui to the ancient demon world, and then coming back. For now, if you are safe, I really don't have to stay here. I can go to the ancient demon world to improve myself. After letting her know everything, Wu Yu looked at her affectionately. Lupin sat on the edge of the pavilion, looking at the garden with her beautiful eyes. She thought for a long time, frowned slightly, and said, "Gods are gods, not something we mortals can predict or guess. What do you think?" "Just like you, I am confused. In fact, at least 80% of my heart believes that he is your father. Only 20% of fear remains. In fact, the difference from before is that the possibility of safety is much higher, but once you enter that 20%, it will be more terrifying." He can't imagine, if all this is his layout, then what does he want to do? Lupin couldn't get rid of his worries. Wu Yu smiled helplessly and said, "Yes, we don't understand the gods, so we don't know what he wants to do and what he can do. If he is the 80% and my father, then everyone is happy. If it is the 20%, then I have done my best. If it is still in his trap, with the gap between us and the gods, we can't know what the truth is before he reveals it. This is not discouragement, but facing up to this gap. After all, the ancient emperor is a god." Wu Yu is actually very confident. "So, tonight's conversation has only greatly increased the possibility that he is your father. But the danger may still exist. Maybe next, we can only take one step at a time. Maybe the opportunity he is waiting for is not so soon, and we still have a chance. After returning to the Four Seas Dragon Palace, I will see if I can communicate with the ancestors in the heavenly court. If I can ask one or two, it will be great," Luo Bin said. "This is a good idea. Only the gods know what methods the gods have." Of course, Luo Bin will grasp the degree of inquiry and will not leak Wu Yu's details. However, it is not certain whether they can communicate. This is quite difficult. The most important thing is that they need to become stronger. "Remember, I will feel relieved if you become an immortal soon," Wu Yu said to her. "Wu Yu, why don't you come back to the Four Seas Dragon Palace with me? It is even safer there than the ancient demon world," Luo Bin suddenly asked him hopefully. Obviously, the other dragons would not agree. Wu Yu smiled and shook his head, saying, "This is not possible. After all, I am Emperor Yu. He will definitely come out and take me away personally, and then we will have a falling out. In addition, I don't want to disturb your immortality." Luo Bin looked regretful. She actually knew it, but she still wanted to say it. "Can I go to the Four Seas Dragon Palace to find you once every year on this day?" If he had been practicing in the ancient demon world and had not seen her for a long time, and he could not communicate with her using the Benwei Fu in that world, Wu Yu would definitely miss her. Of course this made Luo Bin happy like a little girl. Wu Yu saw her beautiful smile. He just wanted the smile to last forever.